They certified everything. I'm like, this is Trump's done now. There's no way he can come back from this. I really thought that.
Well, you mean back after they had just beaten the police up?
Yeah, and then everyone
Yeah.
knew he was like everyone knew he was responsible. Now everyone's forgetting it's been 4 years.
Well,
Uh,
they just like whenever they ask him about pardoning the people who, beat up the police, and bloodied the police, his answer is always, well, Ashley Babbitt's the only one that died.
yeah,
She was just like patriot who was just there and the police shot. Like she's just this victim who just was kind of standing there and then they just shot her. It's like she was breaking into the fucking
right.
the floor of the Congress, like
No,
with
I think
a
in
battering
anywhere,
ram.
yeah, but like definitely in the floor of Congress. But if you're breaking in a window and you see a cop with a gun and you're
Yes.
breaking in the window of anywhere, I'm like, I'll probably die. You know what I mean? If the guy who's guarding is a cop with a gun and you're breaking in, you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd probably
I
get killed
don't
there.
know. It's the deflection, but the thing is, like, it's so far reaching, and the fact that they all just fall for it
Uh,
every time. And I guess it's not even falling for it. I guess you're just so on board, it just doesn't matter. But the fact that, and I guess it's the shamelessness of it that you can be like, so this whole thing you're saying about you want to, you're law and order, and you back the blue, and now you want to pardon people who literally are on video beating the shit out of the police, and police,
uh,
and some policemen died. Like the only person that died was Ashley Babbitt. She's a hero, and it's just like,
yeah. Or what about this
why
other
is
thing?
she a hero?
Yeah, you
Because
see
someone
a lot
shot her when she was breaking in somewhere.
during the Jimmy Carter funeral, and then Bush, like he snubbed Trump, and all these people are online saying, "Oh, fucking George W. Bush is the worst. He's horrible." I'm like, all you guys voted for this motherfucker. What are you talking about? You know what I
For
mean?
George W.
You're
Bush.
right. Like ninety
Um,
percent of them voted for Bush. It was the same bullshit.
that image of them all sitting there, and the interactions is like, I don't know what the right word is, but it seems like that's like a microcosm of everything that's transpired. You know what I mean? In one, cause just seeing all of them together in one room is just kind of like the way they interacted is it's so. First of all, the Obama exchange, I'm
Yeah.
just kind of like, Obama, like watching, I was like, go fuck yourself.
No,
Like what do you even like? What? No, why?
I don't know. I think they were talking about how like Obama sat next to him, and that was probably planned because Obama's like cool. He knows how to play the game a little bit. I don't take too much into that. I
I
mean,
do. I really see that as
yeah,
like, I look at it as like, what's going on? Is this all
yeah,
bullshit? Is this professional wrestling? Like, what's going
yeah.
on? I like, seriously, it's like, I'm sorry, but you can't. If that was me and someone was basically saying, trying to, spread lies to get me out of my job for years, and
Yeah.
has just been attacking me and calling me this, and spreading lies about my wife and myself and trying to ruin my life. It's like, if I was at a funeral, I think I'd be like, where is that guy sitting? Because I'm not,
Yeah.
just put me one seat over. I don't want to sit next to that guy. And I guarantee, if I sat next to Trump and he started talking to me, I wouldn't even like look at him. So it's
Yeah.
like,
You
Obama,
would
what?
Karen Pence him.
I would. Karen Pence was the only one that did it right, which is
Yeah.
so weird. Why is it Karen Pence? Well, I mean, that was the other thing. It's like, Pence is such a fucking nothing. Like the
Right.
guy, he sees him, it's like, oh, hey, when was the last time I saw you? Oh yeah, when you sent that mob to murder me and my family. Oh, cool. How you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Yeah, like the very least, she didn't really even do anything. She just kind of looked to the left. I did that today to someone I work with who I barely have any, who never once tried to murder people in my family, and I just kind of snubbed them. Like, I think you can snub them. I think Obama could have just shook his head and then just not really. They
Right.
didn't have to like laugh about whatever the fuck. What was
Well,
Trump saying that was so
yeah.
hilarious?
Well, the funny thing is that sometimes how the wives, like sometimes the men will just know how to play the game, so he'll shake the hand, Pence. But you sometimes the wives they'll never let it go, because she's not in politics, so she's like, "Fuck this! You try to kill my husband." Um,
Actually,
it's
I think she was mad because he didn't finish the job.
I
Like, if you're gonna try and kill him, at least get the job done. Now I gotta fucking still be married to this asshole.
just want to add one more thing because I was reading today about how they want to tie the aid to California to the debt limit being raised, and the
Right,
Democrats
right.
should not do that because that's the only hand they have. They
I got
really
news
because
for you. They're gonna fucking do it. They're going to do it.
I don't think so. I think there's money.
Really? I think
Yeah,
they just fold at every turn. And I'm just saying the Obama interaction was just like it was like you could see it. It was just kind of in real time. You could see
right.
it happening. Like, no hard feelings, man. And it's just kind of like so now you're surrendering. It also made Trump look so fucking lame. He just looks
Yeah,
so out of place and like he looked like that guy who's like not popular at the popular party
yeah.
and is trying so hard to get the popular kids to like pay attention to him.
I mean, that also happened. Remember, it was a few years ago, or was that like the UN or something, and all the other world leaders snubbed him too. He was just sitting there alone, you know?
Well, if I was like a MAGA person, diehard MAGA cult person, I would have been mad at the Obama. I would have been pissed at Trump about the Obama
Right.
interaction. You know what I mean? Like that was just kind of the
But Trump was saying nice things about Obama after that, because in the end, Trump, has this inferiority complex to Obama, because
to everything. Yeah,
yeah,
to
but especially
everything.
Obama, because he knows that Obama was pretty popular and will always be thought of as way cooler than he is, you know?
Right.
So,
No, no, he wants to be. It's literally everything is being run by these people that no one liked and everyone snubbed them when they were
right.
kids. And now they have all this money and power and they're just gonna and all they want is to be the cool kid. Mark Zuckerberg
Yeah,
literally cannot get over being a fucking nerd in college. Like
right.
literally he will never get over that. Like I know in the movie The Social Network, I know it's he made it up, Aaron Sorkin, where the whole Facebook thing kind of starts with this girl kind of like blows like dumps him and he's so
Right.
mad he like invents Facebook basically like impress her and then at the way end the whole thing comes down after he's like a billionaire it comes down to him trying to get her to like accept his friend request so the whole thing came down to this
Oh,
girl
that's good.
basically and I almost feel like that's not far off from what is happening with these guys like I guarantee you a lot of this comes down to like a girl they liked in ninth grade not liking them. And
Right.
I'm like not even really kidding.
Yeah, but
So
I got dumped by girls in high school. I didn't create Facebook. I feel like I'm
but I
kind of
don't
lame.
but I think it's different. I
Yeah.
think like these guys never even had like no one paid them any attention.
Well,
Like
I
they were
bet you Musk was like that as a kid.
totally Musk
Yeah.
was it's the
Yeah.
epitome of that.
Yeah.
It's actually what drives these people. And I'm Trump, like I know he's rich and everything, but like, his parents hated his dad hated him, his family hated him, and I'm sure people hated him. And I don't know, he's clearly a miserable person. You know what
Wait,
I mean? Like
who? Musk?
Trump,
Trump, yeah.
like,
But
and it,
like,
like I said, looking at that funeral image, you could just see like in his face, he's just kind of like off to the side and he's kind of staring at everyone. And it made him look so weak because it's like, I thought you just didn't care about anyone and you were bet and they were all shit and they're so stupid and you're so much smarter. And now you're just there kind of on the outside of the clique, like
right,
wanting. And it's like, if you're so cool and you're so much better, don't go to the party. You know what I
right.
mean?
It seems like he's maybe too old to even have any grasp of it. Like Elon Musk, where he wears these clothes like he's like from Hot Topic or wherever, fucking 21 forever 21.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk is not cool for the amount of times he says the word cool when he talks. He's like, it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's so
Yeah,
cool.
cool.
Even the yeah, and Mark Zuckerberg is it's amazing. I haven't seen Mark Zuckerberg in so long until this Facebook thing where he
Yeah,
did that video, and I'm like, oh my god, like I forgot like how like uncharismatic and unappealing you are. Like he's
mhm,
literally um the least interesting person. He has absolutely no charisma. Looks exactly like someone who wasn't cool and is trying to be cool now, and like
right,
thinks being cool now is like having your hair how it would have been when you were 20. Seeing Zuckerberg completely, surrender and capitulate and do it so
mhm,
pathetically, when I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh, you really are just a fucking nerd, like through
yeah,
and through. You really are just this pathetic cuck nerd. No matter what, you can have all the money in the world, and on the like looking at him, you're like, on the inside, he's so mad that people didn't like him.
right.
And
What about Bezos? Do you ever see him? He's all jacked up, like he's on steroids and stuff, and it's like, dude, fucking, you look like ridiculous, you know?
yeah, like you look at people like who really are cool, and they're not doing any of those things. It's funny to
Right.
watch these rich guys, and they have the mentality of like, well, I can't get women. So the way you get women is like you get a lot of money and then you buy a lot of things and then the women like you, and it's kind of like, all right, you'll get women, but they don't like you. You're still a
Yeah.
fucking loser. They're gonna go
Right.
fuck the cool guy behind your back. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you're so I've seen that so many times where a guy will have so much money and like they'll have like the hot girl by their side, but like they clearly hate the guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And but in their mind, they're like, well, I just have to have money, and like they never learn to interact with women. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I just think it like Louis C.K. and fucking Weinstein when they would like, they'd be like, oh yeah, I would jerk off in front of the women. And I'm like, why? Like you're fucking rich, like and famous. You like
Right.
I should be doing that.
Right.
Like just why don't you just try and have sex with them in a normal
Right.
way?
I think you just get that level. None of that's enough. You just get crazy.
Instead of being like, oh, I'm going to have game, they were like, oh, I'm going to get rich and powerful. And so
Right.
when I jerk off, they can't do anything about it. But isn't that what like homeless dudes on the train do? Why are you doing the same thing those
Yeah.
guys are doing? Do it like the rest of us do it. Like you meet a girl after a show, she's kind of into you. You try and hook up with her. If she's not into it, you go home, go to sleep, and then you try it again the next day. Right? Right? I mean, isn't that just kind of how sex works?
Yeah, yeah. I don't lead with the jerking off. I can tell you that's not
Yeah.
a.
Sorry.
We can segue now because we both saw the thing. This whole
Okay.
Trump culture and the MAGA. You could really draw a straight line to like the Jerry Springer show, and we both saw the documentary on Netflix, which was pretty good. And you could see all the people who are on that show. You know who they voted for now, right? All
Yeah.
those, I can't even believe they said every one of those things were true. I thought they were making things up on that show. They were embellishing a lot, though. There was a lot of bullshit on that show.
Yeah. I think they were embellishing, but it is, and I kind of had a feeling when it was happening, and I guess I never really thought much about it, but they do kind of shed light that behind the scenes they're literally just they're coaching them and screaming at them and like
Yeah,
basically berating them and threatening them like you
right,
better get out there and punch her in the face.
right. They said they gave him speed and fucking alcohol and stuff to get him all riled up too.
Yeah, and it's so funny because they would like the only thing about it, and I used to think about this back then, is like, they'd come on the show and then like they'd come out and they'd be like, do you know why you're here? No, no. And they'd be like, yeah, your dad is fucking your friend, and then they're like, what are you talking about? And then they just start punching each other in the face. And it's like, really? Were you expecting good news on this show? Like, have you seen the fuck? You've clearly know the show.
Right.
So I think it's a little naive when they're kind of like, I went on the show and I thought it was just they were putting me
Right.
back in touch with my ex, but it turns out my ex was fucking my friend,
Right. Where
so
they had that lawsuit or that thing where the woman got killed by
yeah. If you don't fight,
they won't
that they
fly up.
don't they won't let you fly home. They won't give your ticket to fly home. So she like, and then she's like, and I had, I mean, they were interviewing the son because she's dead. And he's like, and she had no money and she had to walk to her bus station. I'm like, what do you mean she had no money? She just went to Chicago with no money? Like, what? Why? And then she had to fly home. And then I guess when it aired, the guy saw it and killed her or something.
Jerry Springer is like they didn't, we're just a TV show. We don't feel responsible. I mean, yeah.
What did you think of that? Because you're right. It is very emblematic of like the beginning of the descent of our culture of just sort of like the cruelty. It's all about the cruelty and meanness and like spectacle and like
Right.
exploiting people and
I think one of the producers in the documentary was saying that he felt like he caused what's going on TV and in the internet now, like the outrage stuff. And he has a point, but I think it would have happened anyway. One thing though was very prophetic in that Jerry Springer documentary is how to keep the ratings up, they had to be more and more outrageous. And it's kind of what goes on TikTok and places like that now, where it's like, if you make your mark as someone being outrageous, which is most people who go viral, you have to keep stepping it
right.
up,
That's where you get
Right.
caught, you get backed into a corner because it's
Right.
not enough. You have to do
Right.
more. And
And
so
and that's how we get more polarized. Like you're a Republican, okay, you have to be a little more right wing, then a little more right wing. Then you just got to be flat out racist, because
yeah,
that's, and
I feel like there was a lot like being a kid, we had our kid things that were directed at us, but I felt like most of the things in the world were like adult things that were
Right.
considered like quality. And it was kind of like you would maybe want to like the adult things because that made you feel more mature and
Right.
smart. But then something happened where everything started to get directed to like morons,
Yeah.
like 12-year-old morons. So everything now is just like there is barely any like sophisticated entertainment. Now it's
Well,
all just like, look at this guy's like beating the shit out of that guy. You're like,
right.
oh, that's a
I think
show.
there was some holes in the documentary because they were talking about how he was going against Oprah, and Oprah was the classy show, and but Oprah didn't start that way. She was outrageous, and then like in the '90s, she said, "I'm going to just have a nice, sensitive
Yeah.
show." But early on, that's why she put Donahue out of business.
Yeah.
You could go online and see some old Donahue episodes. This was a talk show, and you're like, they're like some of the things like I saw one once where they just had a cultural anthropologist on there, and it was just like it was like a professor, and that was the show. And then there were people in the audience are asking questions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm like,
I
now,
remember that.
yeah. Now, if you have like a professor on one of these talk shows, someone has to hit him over the head with a chair.
Yeah. But it
They had
happened on Geraldo years
Ronaldo, and I
earlier.
think people also forget that guy Morton Downey Jr. Remember him?
Yeah.
He was
Uh-huh.
kind of doing that stuff before Springer, I think. He
He
was a
was, but
yeah,
Springer became like the gold standard and like those shows like when the fight on Geraldo happened, it was like it was like an outlier. It was like
yeah.
crazy. It was kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Like we can never have this happen again. Jerry Springer, when it happened, when they started beating the shit out of each other, they were like, oh, this is the new show. Like this has to be like every show. Because
Right.
do you remember that when every episode they would just start beating the shit out of each other?
Yeah, and then the funny one, the bouncer or the security guard that was Steve Wilkos, then he had his own show where I think people
Yeah.
that was the other fault I thought in the documentary. They weren't covering the knockoffs. There was tons of knockoffs where everyone was just beating the shit out of each other too.
Yeah.
It was a big
Now they're
trend.
being the shit, and it's like literally that is now politics. That is
Yeah.
now the government, and it's I'm not even kidding. It's basically
No, you see this what they call performative stuff that they do in Congress now, where they just want to get a viral clip. They don't really want to pass laws. They just want to say crazy things in the hall
well
of
the fact
Congress.
that like 2 years ago when they were voting for the speaker, and then Matt Gaetz and that other guy literally almost had like a fight on
Yeah,
the floor of Congress. Like it's just like okay, now it officially is the Jerry's. I think what it is like when it was first happening, there was at least this like sense of embarrassment still. Like
Mhm.
people like they talk about on the show how on the documentary how it became the number one show. It beat Oprah, but it was voted the worst show of all time. So it
Right.
was kind of like, yeah, it's number one, but everyone knows it's shit. And there was still a sense of, it was embarrassing. It was still kind of like shameful. Like you can tell Jerry Springer's even kind of embarrassed when they show
Yeah.
old interview clips and like you could look down on it. That's like gone. There's no like shame or embarrassment anymore. Like
Yeah.
that's what Trump did. Like it's basically he's like, yeah, I'm the biggest, liar and idiot in the world. I don't give a shit. I dance like a moron. I do these and like, but so what? I'm nothing can embarrass me. So
Yeah, you're right. I think shame is really something that's kind of dissipated over the years where you just like I think most people don't even like how does this look? No one really
there's no embarrassment anymore.
yeah.
And I feel like it's flipped where it used to be kind of like the majority was still kind of looked down on things. So those you kept that down there in the gut. There was like a gutter that you could be like, yeah, that's like a weird thing that I don't really want to.
Well,
It's you can look down at it. Now. If you're like that's stupid, everyone's like, fuck you, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? And like now they're all in power.
but you think about it when we grew up, the things that in culture that were shameful were just they look quaint now. Like let's say like people like Carrot Top or Gallagher, and they bring props up, and it was just so you thought it was so hacky and so embarrassing. That looks
Yeah.
quaint now because Gallagher hit watermelons with a hammer, but he didn't fucking hit people with a hammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Things that would be embarrassing would be like some actor. Like when Eddie Murphy tried to have a singing career, it was kind of
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that's embarrassing. Oh, that's a little embarrassing, kind of like that's a little weird.
Or even Pee Wee Herman just jerking off, not on someone like CK, just jerking off alone.
Right, jerking off at a place where you're supposed to go to jerk off. A porno, like that was the thing. It was like, I can't believe he's jerking off. It's like, well, yeah, he's in a porn theater. Like that's kind of where he's being responsible about it. Like it's too bad that, but
Wasn't a
that's where
school.
right, exactly. So like yeah, now that wouldn't even like, you know, all the people who are being nominated for these cabinet positions, like that's like, you know, 10 times less than what any of them did. And they're going to be the
Right.
head of like the Department of Defense, you know, and it's kind of like, you can one of the people who's the woman who's going to be the head of like Homeland Security. She like shot her puppy, you know,
Oh,
like, and that's not a disqualifier.
Christy
Like
Nome, yeah.
murdering puppies. Well, the other thing I love too is I love how like Trump, when the fires were happening, it was like literally everyone's houses are party. It's like 10 minutes into it, and he's just like Gavin Newscum, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like cool. Thanks for the help. And he's like, I can't wait to the 20th when, you know, when I'm in office. And it's like, what are you going to do? So no more fires? I don't know what. And his first day is going to be a real doozy. So he's going to end the war in Ukraine on the
Mhm.
first day. He's going to lower gas prices, right? And eggs. This is all
Mhm.
in day one,
Right.
apparently. Um, and fire, I guess, and deport 50 million people that no one can even find.
I think the one thing, and I was reading about this, is that really could affect his whole presidency is this stuff with the bond market. Because the bond market, usually when you cut interest rates, the bond market interest rates go down, but they think he's going to do some crazy stuff. So it's not, it's going the other direction.
Yeah.
And if it goes really badly in this direction, it can just sink the whole economy.
Yeah.
So his tariffs and stuff like that, that could, I could see
Mm-hmm.
him like backtracking real fast on that stuff because right now, like you remember that after the stock market or after the won, the stock market was going up the whole time
Uh-huh.
for like a couple of weeks. Now it's tanking because everyone's like, oh,
Writing on the wall, like the closer it's coming, they're like, oh yeah, like, you know, like Elon was like on the stump, was like, we're going to cut the deficit by 2 trillion at least. And like, apparently there's some interview. He just, he's like, well, I mean,
yeah,
best case scenario is 2 trillion, but you know, probably more like 1 trillion. And it's like, I guarantee you it's going to be not a lot. It's going to be what every administration does, how much
right,
they cut it by. And they're going to be like, well, we tried.
right. And they'll
Um,
blame the Democrats even though they run every piece of
of government.
government. Yeah.
And then there's the other one they're backtracking is I saw on the Post just today. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the new tactic. The Post said that Governor Hochul of New York was doing something that was going to raise the gas prices, and it's like, oh, so now the gas prices are run by the
A governor.
governors.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, the president has no power like over the
Right.
governor. So I was like, oh, that's the new, like they're already, you know what I mean? They're already like
Yeah, he
laying
had
it
some
out.
interview. You remember that interview he had a couple of weeks ago? He's like lowering prices. I don't know. It's hard. Trump said this.
Yeah,
Once
yeah, he
they're
said it immediately.
Yeah, it's like once they go up, it's hard to put them down. I'm like, well, you didn't say that during the
I think that's going to be in
campaign.
his inauguration speech. I can't lower grocery prices. And I can't, I mean, and the thing is, you know, you're like, well, they're going to find out when it's like, no, they're not. They're not even going to, they're going to blame it on Hunter Biden and they're going to
Right.
like,
But I do think
they're already
there are some people
changing.
in the middle that'll have the FAFO or whatever.
I
They're
guess so, but they're
there
just
is
so stupid. I mean,
yeah.
if you, I don't know, if, like we've talked about this before, but it's just like you just didn't see. Like I said, it's like the people would go on Jerry Springer and then were shocked when you know it turned out their dad was fucking their kids, you
Yeah.
know, or like. But again, it was kind of like it was like you could use it to differentiate yourself from people, like. Oh, that's what stupid people are into. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I'm not stupid. And it was like, there was a point of pride of being smart. And now we're at a point where like being smart is like embarrassing to people and like something you should be ashamed of. Like, oh, these like scientists, oh, they go to college. Oh, I don't want some guy who like went to college doing, you know, running things like I want this guy. It's literally the movie Idiocracy. That's what they
Yeah.
talk about, where all the stupid people are having or procreating. Oh, you know, they just keep having kids, and the smart people are the ones who are like more measured and actually like you know plan ahead and you know they're like well I can't afford to have a baby right now and the other ones
Right.
have like 9 kids and you're just like shut up so, like going on it used to be a thing of like oh I was on Jerry Springer like and you'd be like ugh but now it's kind of like that's not a deal breaker and then you have like these politicians who actually are intelligent and educated who are like championing these people you know they used to look down on them
They still do behind
They
the
still
scenes.
do, but
Yeah.
they rely on them for. Can you play us out with a
I'm
song?
gonna play us out. Here we go.
All right, thanks. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye.
Free, what's good? Eric Bronstein, get it understood. Ellie2B talking New York. From the big city, get it from the source.